All right, so we are going to talk about the ICE shooting of Renee Nicole Good that happened in Minneapolis. There's a lot of people who are making a lot of assumptions, asking a lot of questions. So I'm going to break this down from a police standpoint, and I hopefully can answer some questions. So, first question that people have been asking is: was the agent justified in shooting this woman who was in her vehicle? I think before you answer that question, you have to take a look at some of the guidelines, meaning agency guidelines. And of course, they're federal agents. So there's different guidelines for them opposed to local agency and state agencies. So, for those of you who don't know, on the state level, you have your local police officers that have to abide by certain ordinances and things like that. And then you have the state police who are under state guidelines. And then, of course, you have federal, like the FBI and ICE. So, everyone has their own guidelines that they have to follow, they have their own SOPs. So, that's one thing to consider here. What I'm going to be speaking about is related to state guidelines, especially the state that I worked in that I knew about, that were the Attorney General guidelines on use of force and use of deadly force. And what are the requirements? So the main question people are asking is, did he have to shoot her? Okay. And then the other point that the other side is saying is, well, did she have to hit the gas and try to run him over? Was it intentional? Was it accidental? Did she see him there? Uh, all kinds of things flying around. Okay, so let's talk about it from this standpoint. And I'm gonna answer questions when I can. So if you want to throw questions in the chat, I will do my best to answer them. But I want to get through this because this is what people are, really focusing on. So the one thing that I always like to talk about is what happened prior. So when I investigated incidents and I investigated even motor vehicle accidents, you look at what happened prior to the event. So someone, I forget his name now, great guy that I researched and read. He always said, "What happened left of the bang?" Right? Because there's the bang, but what happened just prior? And people always look at the bang and what happened after. So what happened left of the bang? And what you have to look at is, what were her actions that led up to this? It's not like she was just walking down the street and ICE agents rolled up and shot her. It is clearly now, by multiple eyewitness testimonies, that this woman was agitating and preventing the actions of these ICE agents by blocking the road and not allowing their vehicles to pass, causing a disturbance, causing a disruption, and affecting their investigation. Now, they were there, from what I'm hearing, on the ground investigating the rampant apparent fraud with these Somali run daycares. The YouTuber Nick Shirley, who that uncovered this. And so, from what I'm being told and what multiple agencies are reporting, that's why ICE was on the ground there. So it had nothing to do with the immigrant population, or whether the Hispanic population or anything like that. That's why they were there. They were doing investigations. They were going around. And this woman, Renee Nicole Good, who is, I believe, 37 years old and a mother of three children. I think she has a 15-year-old and a 12-year-old from a previous relationship. And then she has a 6-year-old from another relationship. From what I'm hearing, divorced from the first relationship, and now a widow from the second relationship, which she had the 6-year-old child with. And apparently, she has a new partner. She's living in the city. This is a woman that, for a short time, left the country and moved to Canada following Donald Trump's election. That's a bit extreme in my book. I mean, a lot of people threatened to do that if Donald Trump got elected, but she's someone who actually did it. Okay, you guys can form your own opinion on someone who would actually leave the country because someone got elected president. You guys can form your own opinion on that. And now it's the mother who has a 6-year-old and it has moved back to the States. And just from what reports are saying, what I believe her ex-husband or someone was saying, someone related to her, saying she just dropped her child off at school. and Minnesota has failed society. Yeah, some people are saying that. So uh, she just dropped her 6-year-old off at school and then engages with these ICE agents, blocking, obstructing, disorderly conduct. So there's a multitude of crimes she committed, you know, nothing horrendous, but clearly, when you're blocking traffic, you're adversely affecting federal agents from conducting an investigation, disrupting and being disorderly. Yeah, and so yeah, it's illegal, no matter how you cut it. If you went out there right now and saw the police on the side of the highway conducting an investigation, and you either with your vehicle or on foot went to disrupt the investigation they were conducting, you'd be placed under arrest, right? So that is something that multiple eyewitnesses. There was a black woman, there was a white woman, and then there was a Hispanic woman. Ironically, right? All their mission was missing was an Asian woman. That all gave testimony to her actions prior to this interaction with the agents that happened on the street. There are some reports that are saying she lived on this street. I don't know if that's been confirmed as of yet. So there was a multitude of interactions. There's multiple reports that she had struck an ICE agent prior to the video that we're all seeing. Now, as many of you know by now, there are multiple angles of this incident that occurred. And for some reason, I don't know why, most of the news outlets are not showing the third angle, which is kind of more from the front of her vehicle. Most of the agencies are showing the angle from the backside where you see the officer walk up, pull on the door, and they're ordering her to get out of the vehicle. And they use the F word to get out of the vehicle. She doesn't get out of the vehicle. That front angle from the front of her vehicle, however, is very telling, because in that angle, and that's the only angle you get a clear picture of the agent that was standing in front of the car that actually has his leg hit and he kind of flips to the side a little bit. And that is the agent that fired the rounds into the vehicle. Very important for everyone to see that third angle, because there's a lot of people who are saying she never hit him, she never hit him, he jumped out of the way. It's just not true. And we see it on video. So you just look bad and you lose credibility when you're trying to put something out there and telling people don't believe their eyes. You just look bad. You're better off saying, okay, yeah, she hit him, but whatever. So she clearly hit him. She clearly strikes him in this video, and you could see it. And from what we're hearing is apparently this happened prior as well, I guess involving another agent, where she moved her vehicle because she was kind of moving back and forth, blocking traffic and causing a disturbance. And there's a couple of reports that an agent was hit prior to this. I don't know if that led to them now, coming down on her and affecting this, what appears to be a motor vehicle stop. So just to give you some background on a felony motor vehicle stop, I'm not saying she perpetrated a felony. I'm just saying that typically on a felony motor vehicle stop, when you're behind the vehicle, officers get out. You guys have seen this in the movies. They get out, they open their doors, and they kind of go in the pocket of the door where the door is meeting the frame of the car. They kind of go in that area, use the door in the vehicle for protection, and they have their weapons drawn. And they're saying, ordering the driver to turn the vehicle off, get out of the car, and giving the commands. Sometimes they're on the PA or the megaphone, and they're giving commands to the driver. This was not that situation. Apparently they had been continuously engaged with this woman based on her actions of blocking traffic, blocking the agents, whatever. So they finally pulled up and cornered her. Now you could see that there's a vehicle in front of her vehicle, and it appears to be an undercover vehicle. And there's some agents that came from that vehicle. I believe the agent that got struck came from that vehicle. And then you see a pickup truck pull up kind of perpendicular to her vehicle. She was kind of catty corner in the road. You see a pickup truck. It looks like a Nissan Titan pickup truck. Has hidden lights. The lights are flashing. And the agents get out wearing their identification. And instead of getting out of the vehicle and giving commands from their vehicle, they just walk right up to her vehicle. It's a danger because what if she was armed? What if she had a weapon? You don't want to walk right up to a vehicle. And this is someone who's been agitating you and clearly been disruptive and, violating the law. And you're going to just, she could be a crazy person. You don't know. And the agent just walks right up and grabs the handle of the door. And now they're both walking up and saying, get the F out of the car, get the F out of the car. And he grabs the handle of the car. And that's when you see her back up. In the time that she goes to back up, the agent that had pulled up and apparently got out of the undercover vehicle from the vehicle that was in front of her comes around and positions himself at the front corner, at the front quarter panel, front driver's side headlight of her vehicle. I don't know what possesses a human being in this day and age when you've been agitating, blocking traffic, maybe potentially hit an ICE agent already. Now they're surrounding you. I don't know what possesses a 37-year-old mother of three children who just dropped her 6-year-old off at school a few hours prior to say, rather than put the car in park and put my hands up and be like, okay, 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 I have federal ICE agents approaching my vehicle. All right. Okay. Sorry. All right. Sorry. You throw your vehicle in reverse and you throw your vehicle in drive. And whether you saw that there was an agent in front of your vehicle or not, some people are saying she didn't see him there. She didn't know he was there. Other people are like, oh, she clearly saw he was there and trying to run him over. I don't think anyone who was not her and not inside her mind knows what she was thinking. So both could be true. She could have seen him there or she could have not seen him there. Either way, her action, which was not what she was supposed to do, which was put her car in park, turn her vehicle off, and get out, listening to the commands, the lawful commands of federal agents based on, it's not like, once again, it's not like she was doing nothing. She knew she had been agitating. She knew what she was doing. She knew she had committed multiple crimes. I mean, anyone with 3 brain cells knows that if you're sitting there blocking traffic, you're committing a crime. And didn't get out, puts it in reverse, puts it in drive, and then either intentionally or inadvertently, we don't know, hits that officer. So the first question I have is, what is it about our current time in society, 2026, where a 37-year-old mother of 3 children, one of them being a 6-year-old, feels that it is okay to do what she did, and then when confronted, to be detained by the people she had just been harassing, who are federal agents, rather than comply, get out of the car, hey, whatever, you guys are bad guys, you guys shouldn't be doing this, you guys shouldn't be here, whatever. You could say all that if you want. As you're getting arrested, fine. But rather than that, you throw your car in reverse and throw your car in drive real quick, trying to, what are you looking to flee? You're running from the police? This is that day and age where something told this woman that was okay. That was okay to do. And that, to me, is the wildest thing about this whole situation, that this 37-year-old mom of 3 who is a poet and writes music and everyone says was a lovely, lovely human being, everyone that knows her, kind, gentle. What triggered this person to, with her vehicle, cause such a disruption and disobedience, knowing she's breaking the law, and then when confronted, try to elude the police like a bank robber? I don't know. And if any of you can maybe answer that question, that'd be great. However, that's what happened. Now, let's move to the ICE agent that was in front of her vehicle. There is statutes, there's guidelines, there's SOPs in place in the state of New Jersey and multiple other states that if you are able to get out of the way of a vehicle that is coming at you, your first action needs to be to get out of the way. If you have if you have the time to get out of the way, get out of the way. They talk about it with like the vehicle coming at you down an alley theory. This is what they talk about in the police academy. You're you're in an alley and there's, a wall behind you and a building to your right and a building to your left. And this car is intentionally driving at you to come and kill you. That is deadly force. And at that moment, you have the ability to fire your weapon at the driver of that vehicle. Deadly force on deadly force. That's like the use of force continuum. However, the guidelines state in this state situation, like I said, I don't know what the federal officers are beholden to, that if there is somewhere for you to get out of the way, meaning you're not in an alley, you're in the middle of a street and a car is coming at you and you have time to get out of the way, get out of the way. That should be option one, not lethal force. It should be jump out of the way, get out of the way of the vehicle, and get yourself to safety. Now, the operative part is you have the time to get out of the way. And the way the example they gave in the police academy is now you're standing in the middle of the street, someone is, in the street with their car, and now they're driving towards you, and you have the time to get out of the way, you jump out of the way. When you're standing in front of a vehicle with your legs touching their excuse me, their bumper, you really don't have any time to get out of the way because essentially the second they move their vehicle forward, they're making contact with you. So that is something that's going to be very important in this case. So what happened when you look at it from a use of force and use of force continuum is deadly force was met with deadly force. So when you look at it just straight from that way, you can say deadly force was met with deadly force. She used her vehicle to come at him, whether intentionally or inadvertently, and he responded with deadly force. Now you have to use a continuum. So if someone comes at him with their hands, punching, clawing, whatever, you can respond with you yourself punching, clawing, whatever, and then you can step one step up from there. As an officer, you have the right, you have the ability to step up one step. So someone's punching, kicking, scratching, you could respond with that, or you could take out your baton and you could hit them with your baton. That's a mechanical force. You can spray them with pepper spray, mechanical force. Okay. But that's where it has to end. If someone's just running and punching and whatever and kicking and clawing and being crazy, that's not deadly force, so you can't escalate all the way up to deadly force. Okay. So let's see, two angles. One looks, let's try that. Let's see. So anyway, so that is something that is pretty common, the use of force continuum. You can go one step up. Okay. Now, if the person who's punching, kicking, scratching breaks out a knife out of their pocket and now is coming at you with a knife, that's deadly force. And you can then escalate from the pepper spray or the baton. You can then draw your firearm and utilize deadly force because they up the ante. So now you're allowed to. But until they do, you're not allowed to. So hope that makes sense. So when it comes to, let's say, a person with a vehicle, if they are coming at you and you have nowhere to go, that's deadly force, you can use deadly force. If you have the ability to escape and get out of the way of that vehicle, most agencies and most guidelines are saying you have to get out of the way. Whether the person is meaning to hit you or not, let's remove that. Let's just say you're an agent or you're an officer and someone, whether intentionally or inadvertently is driving their vehicle towards you, if you can get out of the way, you're supposed to get out of the way. If you can't because you have nowhere to go or you don't have the time to get out of the way, then it's a deadly force on deadly force situation. So the question that's going to come down to it, and let's look at it from a legal perspective, right? We've all watched the courtroom dramas, and the courtroom dramas will say you have the prosecutor and you have the defense attorney. So the prosecutor for the state is going to say, they're going after the ICE agent, they're going to say, well, he had the ability to get out of the way. There was nothing around him. He didn't need to use deadly force. He had the ability to clearly, it was on an open road. He could have just stepped out of the way or jumped out of the way. Why did he use deadly force? And his defense attorney will likely say, well, he didn't have the time. It was right there. He didn't have the time to jump out of the way because it happened too quickly. He had his gun drawn, and instead of the vehicle was coming at him, so he fired his weapon to neutralize the threat, and that's what happened. So that's going to be the legal battle, right? Why didn't he jump out of the way? He didn't have the time. If he had the time, like she was coming at him and he was in the middle of the street and was 30 yards away and he shot, then it's going to be like, wait a second. You had a closing distance. You could have just jumped out of the way, clearly gotten behind a parked car and let the car go by. Wasn't the case here. It was instantaneous. So he had a millisecond to react. In that millisecond, could he have jumped out of the way? It actually looked like he tried to jump out of the way. But then also in that millisecond, he has to make a decision on, is he going to fire or is he not going to fire? So no one wants to be in that position. No one ever wants to have to make that split second decision. And for the record, that guy didn't go to work that day saying, I want to kill a 37-year-old mother of 3 children and ruin the rest of my life and ruin my career and whatever. That was not that person's intention in any means. And if you're someone who is saying that, if you're someone who's saying, oh, he wanted to kill her, yeah, what crazy person wants to throw away their entire career, their entire livelihood, spend the rest of their life mired in lawsuits and all that stuff? Like, no one wants to do it. So that is the legal aspect of it. Now, you're going to go back to whether or not it was intentional. She was intentionally trying to run him over. No one knows that. It's impossible to know. And anyone speculating, saying she had no intention to run him over, or saying the opposite, or she was aiming at him, she was intentionally trying to run him over and kill him. Both people are lying because nobody knows. And you cannot tell from that video whether she was intentionally trying to hit him or not trying. Some people say, oh, she turned the wheel. So clearly she was, that doesn't mean anything. She was being told to exit her vehicle, given a lawful order by a federal law enforcement officer, and she disobeyed that order. That right there, why would someone do that? Why would someone do that? And you have an officer ordering you out of the car and is at your door, pulling on your door. So, she could have just put the car in park, put her window up and said, I'm not getting out. You could pull the YouTube, TikTok, call a supervisor, but I'm not getting out of my vehicle. Get on the phone, start recording. We've seen it all. I don't know how many times I've seen someone just hit the gas and try to leave, and there's someone standing in front of their car. It just kind of blew me away. So, this is something that she would have likely. So people have said, what would have happened? What would have happened if she got out of her car? She would have been arrested for hindering. She would have been arrested for disorderly conduct. She would have been arrested for obstructing traffic and obstructing a police investigation. she, would have been charged with multiple things, and probably released on bail and would have been given a court date. That's probably would have been it. She probably would have been, I'm guessing, probably out of jail within a few hours. But her actions of attempting to flee the scene, and unfortunately, in attempt to flee the scene, whether intentionally or unintentionally, hitting that officer, changed the whole dynamic of this situation. So, what's going to come of it? It's going to come down to a court case, and it's going to come down to a trial, and it's going to come down to attorneys trying to articulate on one side that he felt in fear of his life and responded to deadly force with deadly force, which by most accounts in most agencies in most states, and I'm fairly sure on the federal level, when you feel your life is threatened with deadly force by the use of force continuum, you can respond with deadly force. So that's what they're going to say. He felt his life was in imminent danger. The vehicle was right in front of him, and the driver put it in reverse, and that was instantly coming at him. He had he couldn't react quick enough to get out of the way, so he fired on the driver. And yeah, the other side is going to say, why did he stand in front of her vehicle? Why would you block a vehicle with your body? You also created a potentially dangerous crossfire situation. And why didn't you block her vehicle with your vehicle so she couldn't move? We've seen that in some of these videos. And they're going to say, you had the ability to jump out of the way without firing your weapon. You jumped out of the way and fired your weapon. You had the ability to jump out of the way without firing your weapon. Why did you, when there was an area for you to jump to and escape, why did you fire your weapon? That was not necessary in that situation. That's what they are going to try to say. And it's probably going to come down to a jury. We're seeing the video. It's going to come down to a jury to say, was it justified in firing his weapon at this vehicle that you clearly see in the vehicle struck him? It's hard to tell with the sound of the gunshot going off and the vehicle actually like hitting his leg. So it's hard to tell if he was hit by the vehicle and then the shot went off, or if he fired the shot as it was coming at him, because she backed up a little bit and then sped forward, and he shot and then got hit. It's kind of hard to tell. And also, far away, and there might be a delay in hearing the shot. So hard to tell. But so from a police investigation standpoint, which I don't know how many felony stops I've been on and how many investigations I've conducted in my time. That's from the legal standpoint. Let's talk about what the lawyers are going to say and how they're going to break this down. That's how it goes. I'm not going to sit here and get into what the officer was or the agent was thinking, what the driver was thinking. No one here knows that except them. So we're going to let that play out in court when we'll hear his testimony. We're going to hear his testimony as to what was going through his mind. And then there's going to be people who, after hearing his testimony, they're going to say, he's lying, he's full of shit, he's not telling the truth, whatever. Okay, but that's how it works, right? You get called to court, you get put on the stand, and they tell you to tell the world what you were thinking in that moment. And more than likely, he's going to say, this is someone who had been an agitator, who had broken multiple laws. We tried to effect a lawful motor vehicle stop on this person, and while standing in front of the vehicle, surrounding the driver backed up and then accelerated toward me, and I had my duty pistol drawn, and I fired rounds because it was a deadly threat coming at me, and I felt in fear for my life, and I fired, and that's why I fired the shots on the driver. I could probably say with almost 99% surety that that's going to be his testimony. That's, I think we could all, surmise that that's what he's going to say. That's what he's going to go with. Not premeditated at all or anything like that is there. Now, some people are saying, why did he have his weapon drawn and the other agents on scene, especially the one that went up to the vehicle to pull on the handle. It just went up with his hands, his weapon still holstered. There was an officer or an agent behind him that also was coming out with no weapon displayed. Why did the agent in front of her vehicle have his weapon drawn and he was, drawn down on the driver? I have no idea why. I don't know if for some reason there was anything to expect that this woman was armed and dangerous. It seems like the first guys who got out of the pickup truck and then just were just walking up to her car. It looks like they just realized that she was just some crazy lady, anti-ICE agitator, protester lady, and it didn't seem like they were thinking that she was going to have a weapon, which, by the way, anyone can have a weapon on them at any point. So, from a tactics standpoint, I'm not Monday morning quarterbacking, but I think any officer who knows anything about these kinds of situations knows that you don't just walk up on a car like that. You never know what you're walking up to. Give those commands from afar, and then they'll also tell you, don't ever hold on to a vehicle. Don't ever try to climb inside a vehicle. Don't ever try to connect yourself to a vehicle in any way, because in the event the driver tries to flee, you're going with that vehicle, especially if you're halfway inside that vehicle or you're holding onto that vehicle for some reason. There's this automatic the propensity, if you're holding onto a vehicle in some capacity and it starts going away, the natural thing is not to let go. So for some reason, the natural thing is to hold on. And you see all these videos of officers getting dragged with the vehicle. So very, very tough to watch something like that. I think this officer in this video let go suddenly, but there was shots fired, and then the vehicle turned off and went down the street and crashed into a parked car and what appears to be a telephone pole. And from what we hear, the driver expired there. Man, if anyone has, I'm going to go to the comments here and see what people are saying. It's tragic, but she did hit the officer while trying to flee. In my opinion, it can go either way in court depending on the judge. Yeah, really, depending on the judge and the jury, it really can go either way. Let's see. The officer was also previously hit and dragged by a car. Yeah, there are some reports that are saying that, I don't know if it was that same ICE agent or a different ICE agent was struck by a vehicle earlier. And some reports are saying it was her in her vehicle that struck an agent earlier. Like I said, it'd be very interesting to know if the agent that was struck earlier, previous to this encounter, was that agent that now had a gun drawn on her, or if it was a different agent. But either way, I can tell you that if it was a fellow agent that you watched get hit by a car, and then you subsequently, 30 minutes later or whatever, stop that car because that car fled the scene, and now you have it cornered and you have it stopped, and you get out and you are now approaching that vehicle, that's a situation where the driver has already struck and hit and potentially injured another law enforcement officer already. So there would be justification to have your weapon out because they've already committed a crime of hitting an officer intentionally, maybe, we're not sure. And now this person is using their vehicle as a deadly weapon. So you're getting out of that vehicle with your weapon on that person because you already have prior knowledge. So I think we need to kind of let this play out a little bit and see whether or not she and her vehicle were involved in that previous incident that many people are now talking about. Once again, we don't know. It could be speculation, but I think it was ABC News. I think ABC News and the clip is on YouTube, put out a clip where they're saying that an ICE agent or officer was struck, and that's, I think, that what was led to this. So then we'll find out. We'll find out probably in the coming days, if they want us to, whether if it was this Renee Nicole Good that is the one that struck that agent and injured, from what we hear, injured that agent. See if it was the same car, same vehicle. Okay, so every libtard armchair quarterback is going to it wasn't. Uh, Say it wasn't necessary. The other angles clearly show she tried to run him down. She was also stalking them all day previously, and is from Colorado. Okay, so uh, let's uh, let's unpack that a little bit. There are reports, multiple reports, that she'd been stalking them for quite some time. There's a report that she had just recently dropped her 6-year-old off at school, but that could have been hours and hours earlier. But yes, there are multiple reports that she'd been stalking them and agitating them, blocking traffic, blocking their vehicles for quite some time. This was not the initial encounter with them. She was following them around the city and trying to disrupt their actions. So there are multiple reports of that. Let's wait and see, because that will easily be confirmed. There's body cam and surveillance footage, but we're hearing now from multiple sources that that's what she was doing. Once again, 37-year-old mother of three, you just dropped your kid off at school, and now this is what you're doing for the day. You're following ICE agents around and trying to impede their work and get in their way and block traffic and cause a disruption. Like, yeah, when people say, "Didn't she have anything better to do?" I understand why people are saying that. Let me just say that. I understand why people are saying that. I can imagine that a mother of three uh, probably should be doing something else, but hey, okay. So I get that. I understand that. So, and also from Colorado. I'm pretty sure that has been debunked. I'm pretty sure that has been debunked, that she actually did live in the city and is a resident of the city. She previously moved to Canada after Trump got elected, and then moved back from Canada to Colorado, and then moved and reports are saying that she lived in Minneapolis for at least the last year. Don't know if that's confirmed, but at least the last year is what multiple news outlets are saying. So we'll find that out. Okay. She's part of a local commie group called 618, the real Captain Lavender. Local commie group called I don't know. Can someone look that up? Can someone look that up and see if that's legit? First of all, let's look up 618 and see if that's a real thing, and then see if she was part of it, see if that she was tied to that. That'd be really interesting to see. I mean, of course, people are saying this is the typical liberal Antifa, behavior of going around harassing ICE agents and doing all this stuff. We've seen it before, and unfortunately, we're probably going to continue seeing it. And because this is a day and age where people feel like that's okay. Hey, you're a mother of 3 children, and you just think it's okay to go around and stalk ICE agents as they do their job around the city all day. I don't agree with that. Let's see. Defend 612. She's a known agitator. My bad. Oh, sorry. My bad. Oh, so the commie group is called Defend 612, and she's a known agitator and provocateur. Okay. I heard from a couple of outlets that she's someone that has been involved in incidents like this before. So, which, if she's just been a protester before, there's nothing wrong with that. You're peacefully protesting. Sure, as long as you're not getting in the way of federal agents, or you're not getting in the way of police officers. If you want to protest, you want to march, you want to hold your sign, you want to go to City Hall and, you know, hold signs and wave them in front of your local district representatives, and you want to go and get your governor, your mayor, and whatever, you know, get on the phone with them and march outside their office. Cool. I mean, that's all allowed. Uh, Getting in your car and using your vehicle to obstruct their work and try to get in their way and, you know, disrupt lawful investigations into rampant corruption. I don't know. And now, if evident, now they're making her out to be, of course, a mom, 3 kids, mother to a 6-year-old, just dropped him off at school. So we got that. And saying, you know, she loves music, she loves poetry, and all this stuff. Listen, we've all seen the guy who, you know, robs a liquor store and shoots people and whatever. And then when he gets killed by the police, you see his 5th grade graduation capping gown photo from 16 years ago. So let's let this play out, because if she is a known provocateur, she's a known agitator that's been involved repeatedly with stuff like this, that's going to be very interesting. It's going to be very interesting to see. So let's see how that plays out. Defend 612, very interesting. I'd be very interested to see what that is about. I'm going to look that up and see. So thank you to everyone who chimed in and yeah, really, you know, brought up some good points here. I definitely appreciate it. So thank you. Yeah, so that's it. That's where we're at right now with this investigation. More is coming out as the days go on. And it's going to be an interesting case to follow to see what happens with this ICE agent. It seems that at this point, which I think is a little too early, but Kristi Noem came out and did make a statement. President Donald Trump came out and did make a statement. It appears that both their statements are in support of the ICE agent. And of course, then you have media outlets in the mainstream media that are all against the agent and are for this woman. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out for sure. Once again, we're not pointing blame and we're not placing intent on anyone here. We're just stating the facts of how this played out, and no one knows what anyone was thinking, and no one will ever know what the woman, the female driver, was thinking, Miss Renee Nicole Good. No one will, only God will ever know what she was thinking in that moment before she lost her life, and we'll soon see what the ICE agent was thinking in those moments before he fired those fateful rounds. So I will do my best to stay on top of this, and I do have a couple of contacts on the ground there. So as soon as I get information, I will share it with you. But definitely let me know below in the comments your thoughts on this. Try to keep them respectful and try to keep them reasonable. Let's not go down the path of, you know, conspiracies or insanity, because remember, that makes you no better than the people that you're probably against. So let me know what you think in the comments, and 221 be tactical for more information. Follow. Okay. See you guys later.